Hello. Thank you so much for watching my IPC case study presentation today titled Racial Discrimination and the Relationship Dialectics Theory. Of course, I'm Mikey Edwards, and I really look forward to learning with you today. By way of introduction, I want to talk about the lovely girl that's in both of these pictures. This is my wife, now Kurimata Edwards, and these are pictures of her when she was a student at Boise State under the intensive English program. Though she had a wonderful experience learning about the American culture, eating American food, and even falling in love with an American boy, there was also moments where people would make comments to her that were ethnocentric in nature or racially discriminating. Just as many Americans believe that Africa is a country, even though we know Africa is a continent, many people would also make comments like, "Oh, so you're from China," or "Now doesn't sound like a Japanese name," or "That food smells really weird." Her experience was bittersweet, and though it's been more sweet than bitter, thankfully, her experience is a reflection of the case study that I'm going to be talking about today. Today, I'm going to be talking about the situation that we find in chapter 5 of the book Inside Relationships in a story titled Sticks and Stones about Dr. Lisa K. Hanasono and how she was able to overcome racial discrimination as well as feelings of isolation and being left out by prioritizing her culture and realizing that she didn't have to be ashamed of who she was. The IPC theory that I chose for this was the relationship dialectics theory, which focuses on the internal struggles that we often have when we're inside of a relationship. And overall, I feel that this case study, when looked through the lens of the relationship dialectics theory, is able to strengthen those who are experiencing discrimination in any relationship to stand up for themselves and rebalance their life, as well as strengthen people who have friends who may be experiencing that so that we can add more assistance to them and give assistance to their lives. So Dr. Lisa K. Hanasono's story starts in Indiana when she was a young girl who was born in America. Her parents were born in America. However, her great grandparents were born in Japan, and she was of full Japanese descent. And when she was a young child in Indiana, she didn't fit in. She was one of the few racially different people in her school, and many children would mock her ethnicity by squinting their eyes and giving her the nickname of Chow Mein. However, as she grew older, things didn't change. While she still thought of herself fully as American and wanted to fit in just with the rest of the kids, she found herself choosing to study French instead of choosing to study the Japanese language in high school because she just wanted to fit in and didn't want to be viewed as the Asian girl. Later in college, she would get awkward questions asked about who she was, questions such as, country are you from? And when she'd reply with America, they'd ask again, well, what country are you really from? Many awkward situations and many awkward answers that she'd have to give their questions. There was even a point when she was with one of her boyfriends at the time, and when she was at a bar, there was a man who yelled a racial slur at her about Asians. When she confronted him about it, he became violent immediately and chased her out of the bar. And only because she fled the scene and her boyfriend got between the man was she able to be safe. Eventually, however, she decided that she didn't want to be a victim anymore. Instead of prioritizing having a good relationship with every single person, even when they would make disparaging comments about her ethnicity, she chose to stand up for herself, to focus on her own autonomy. And she decided that she would be an advocate for people who are experiencing racial discrimination. She'd be more proud of her culture and she'd be much more strong and straightforward when confronting racial discrimination. Because of that, she was able to write successful books on discrimination about Asians, and she has cherished and treasured her cultural identity today, and it is a big part of who she is. Now, if we go over just briefly the problems that she was experiencing in this story, this true story, feelings of isolation, uncomfortable questions about her ethnicity, racial discrimination in the form of slurs, threats of physical violence, as we just talked about, and shame about her heritage to the point where she would go out of her way to to not show people that she was Japanese because she just wanted to fit in. But how does this relate to the relationship dialectics theory? Well, the relationship dialectics theory, as I said earlier, focuses on the inner tensions or opposing desires that we feel in a relationship. And according to the class textbook, the relationship dialectics theory argues that someone who is engaged in a relationship experiences internal tensions between pairs of motives or desires that pull him or her in opposite directions until they're left with a choice to accept the imbalance within a relationship, exit the relationship, or rebalance their life so they can strengthen that relationship. Now, for example, some of these desires that one might feel in a relationship, according to the relationship dialectics theory, is a desire for closeness or openness, or a desire for autonomy or connection, or a desire for novelty or predictability. In Lisa's story, we saw frequently that her desire for connection oftentimes would outweigh her desire for autonomy to be able to be proud of her own culture and to stand up to racial discrimination. Many times she would laugh at jokes that were about Asians simply because, even though she thought the joke was distasteful and offensive, she really wanted to fit in. So, choosing to laugh at her own expense, that desire for connection, was outweighing her desire to be her authentic self, her desire for autonomy. Throughout her life, you can see that many of her decisions were influenced by this, always having that desire for connection, but also always having that desire for autonomy and respect and safety within her relationship. Because of this, when we look at it through this theory, we realize that people who are experiencing maybe racial discrimination, experiencing discrimination of any kind, experiencing those tensions within a relationship, when they look at those feelings that they're feeling, when they realize that their desire for connection is oftentimes outweighing their desire for safety, their desire for autonomy, their desire for respect, that needs to be rebalanced. Thankfully, there is a light at the end of the tunnel. Lisa, as well as all others in her situation, can choose to either accept the imbalance found within relationships, as there's not always going to be a perfect relationship. There's always going to be give and take sometimes. Maybe she won't have a boyfriend who understands her Japanese culture very well, but they can learn and that can be adjusted. However, she also has the choice to exit harmful relationships. Or the third option, which is what she ultimately chose to do, is rebalance aspects of relationships that she wishes to keep even though she might be friends with someone, if they would make an off-color comment about her Asian ethnicity, she'd be able to stand up for herself and say, hey, I appreciate you, but I didn't appreciate that comment, and I'm actually really proud of my heritage. Lisa chose to use her negative experiences as motivation to help others, and a happy balance of inner desires to fit in while also maintaining our unique personal identities is absolutely possible. That's the light at the end of the tunnel. And that's why the relationship dialectics theory is so important when we look at this story. Because once she realized that those other feelings that she was feeling besides her desire to fit in, once she realized that those feelings were also important, her desires for safety and respect were just as important as her desire to fit in, she was able to rebalance her life where she wasn't only focusing on her desire for connection, she was also focusing on her desire for autonomy, her desire to have respectful relationships where she could feel safe all the time. However, while the relationship dialectics theory definitely covers great things that we can do once we're in a relationship already, or how we can manage relationships that we find ourselves in, when you look through the lens of other IPC theories, we can also learn how to strengthen relationships as well as initiate relationships. When you look at, for example, how to strengthen a professional relationship, how to get along with someone better, the relationship dialectics theory often teaches us how to balance a relationship that we've already been experiencing. However, forming that relationship, strengthening that relationship, when we look through a theory such as the social penetration theory, that makes a lot more sense. This case study combined with this IPC theory of relationship dialectics, it falls short as far as how we can strengthen new relationships. And the social penetration theory talks about how the depth and breadth of conversation can often lead to making very strong interpersonal connections with others. And because she has that Asian heritage and that different cultural background, that is already a great way to increase the depth and breadth of conversations and can lead to forming very strong relationships with great interpersonal communication found within it. So, as far as maintaining relationships and responding to a relationship that might not be healthy, the relationship dialectics theory does a wonderful job. But if we want to look more at how we can strengthen or start new relationships, something like the social penetration theory would be a much better IPC theory to use. And when we can look at Lisa's experience with whether it's romantic partners or professors or her friends, we could look through the lens of that theory and we'd be able to focus a little more on starting new relationships. However, in conclusion, overall, what we were able to learn today was how Lisa Hanasono's story was able to connect so well with the relationship dialectics theory because she was able to overcome discrimination, both racial discrimination as well as social discrimination, by rebalancing her life, reprioritizing her feelings that she had, her desire for connection, but also her desire for autonomy and desire to be respected and to be her authentic self and prioritize her culture. We went over the IPC theory of the relationship dialectics theory. And overall, we learned that those who are experiencing discrimination or negative feelings within a relationship can choose to rebalance their priorities by looking at the inner feelings within that relationship that they're feeling. They can choose to prioritize their connection with others while also choosing to prioritize that closeness, prioritize their own privacy, prioritize their own autonomy. We also learned that if anyone has a friend who is struggling, someone who they know who might be experiencing discrimination, even if they don't show it, we know that with the relationship dialectics theory, they may be feeling sad about something, even if they're choosing to not show it so they can prioritize connections. We learned that we can still reach out and help others, even if we're not experiencing that discrimination ourselves. And that overall is my hope that through learning about this all, we can support our friends more, and any of us who are experiencing discrimination in any way can choose to rebalance our lives, stand up for ourselves, and potentially exit any harmful relationships that we find ourselves in. Thank you so much for watching my presentation today. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I hope you have a great life experience moving forward. Thank you.